So today I'm going to talk about the importance of developing a nasty streak as a footballer. Now, when I transitioned from youth football to men's football, I realized that, I needed a nasty streak. I needed to be able to handle the physicality of the men's game. At first, when I first made the transition into men's football, I needed sort of an adaptation period to get used to, the physicality. Because trust me, if you're a young player right now, let's say you're like 14, 15, 16, take it from me. Even if you're a baller, you're the best player within your age group, when you get to that men's stage, the physicality is sort of on a different level. You understand? You can't be a nice footballer. The thing with me when I was going in, I was too nice as a footballer. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't aggressive. I wasn't aggressive, especially at my size, because I'm only 5'8". So if you're like 6'2", 6'3", you can get away with not being the most aggressive player, you know what I'm saying, because your size will just, you could just hold players off at ease. But when you're like 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", you need sort of that tenacious energy, you need that nasty streak in you, you know what I'm saying, you need to have that aggression on the pitch, because when you get to like the first team, when you get to like men's football, these guys are doing all sorts, like they're stepping on your toes on purpose. Like for example, I remember there was a time where it's like I tried to play a 1-2 with someone, or I'd played a long ball forward, and then obviously as a midfielder I'm trying to sort of slowly join the attack, and a guy just stepped on my foot. Ref didn't see it, but guy just stepped out on my foot out of nowhere, tried to trip me up. You're gonna experience things like this. You're gonna experience stiff arms. Guys will have the ball, you're trying to tackle them, they'll have their back to trying to protect the ball, and they're just trying to stiff arm you, hand to your chest, hands on all over your arms. I remember even one time a guy even started squeezing my pecs when he was trying to started squeezing my pecs when he was trying to protect the ball. I was thinking, that's a why, like, pause for that. But yeah, you're gonna experience all these things, like I said, stiff arms, step on toes, pushes in the back that aren't gonna get called by the ref. You know what I'm saying? The ref is just gonna see it as, it's just strength. So it's one of them things where it's like when you're making that transition, you have to have a nasty streak, because I see it in a lot of players around my age, that 18, 19, 20 years old, that sort of age. I saw it in the trials this summer as well when I went to various different trials. Certain players just don't have that nasty streak in them. Certain players are too timid, you understand? Certain players are just, especially with like the attackers, like maybe if you're a young winger trying to make that transition, or a young number 10 trying to make that transition, that's where I see guys who are too timid, especially if they don't have that stature. They're very timid, and the thing is, you're never going to survive in men's football, because these guys, they'll have good technique, they'll have good passing, but they're too timid in their tackling. They get pushed off the ball easily. Even when it comes to things like calling for the ball, this all sort of equates in your nasty streak. They're too nice, they're too timid, they're too passive, they're not calling for the ball, they're not making their presence known on the football pitch. Like I remember I was at one trial, and obviously the way they were doing the trial game, they wanted to see everyone. They wanted to see that everyone can play, you understand? So they did a 30, second 30, third 30. So they did 3 30s. Instead of the 2 45 minutes, they did 3 30, so everyone could get game time. I remember it came to like the last 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes came, and I was thinking, everyone else had played, I'd played, both of the first 2 30s. And then there was one guy, he ended up being a number 10. There was one guy, very like, he probably about 5'8", slender frame, probably around my age, 19, 20. He hadn't even played yet, and the thing is, the coach made the starting 11 for the last 30 minutes, and he didn't say anything at all. He didn't say anything. He was just in the corner by himself, didn't say anything. I don't think I even heard him say a word for like the whole the whole game. He was just sort of standing on the sideline, and he didn't even tell the coach, coach, I need to play, you know what I'm saying, coach, I haven't played yet. He didn't even say. I think one of the other trialists had to tell the coach, hey, yo, coach, like, this guy hasn't played yet, you understand? So this all equates to the nasty streak. And obviously when he got onto the football pitch, he was actually a decent player. He was a number 10, received the ball through the lines, made a few passes, but like I said before, he wasn't really communicating. There was times where I was watching on the sidelines, he could have got the ball, but then scored. He wasn't really calling for the ball. And first team managers, especially in the UK, when you get to like semi-professional and professional, they don't really like that timidness. You understand? You have to be there. You have to make your presence known, or you simply just won't survive in a men's game. So that's what I mean by developing a nasty streak, because you're gonna be coming up against grown men. You know what I'm saying? Some of these guys are weirdos, bro. Some of these guys will do the most. Like I've heard from older guys that, some of these guys in non-league, even professional football, some of these guys, be doing the most. They be what's it called? Like I said before in the example, grabbing your pecs, grabbing your balls, touching your bum, doing all of that shit, bro. They're constantly trying to hold your arm. They're just trying to do anything to win. They're stepping on the back of your Achilles, stepping on the back of your toes. So you have to be ready for that, you know what I'm saying? You can't be soft, you know what I'm saying? You actually have to develop that nasty streak. You have to start doing it to other people. Like, I remember when, I had my initial adaptation and I, got used to it. Before, before I'd be dribbling and I'd just be dribbling, playing my normal game, not doing too much. But now when I get the ball and someone's trying to tackle me, I find myself, I'm stiff arming people. I'm being very aggressive. Even when I'm pressing people, I'm always, my hands are always on their back. Not making it too obvious so the ref can see, but just always making sure my hands are on their back. I might even, like, clip their Achilles on purpose. It's just one of them ones where it's just like, yo, it is what it is. You're going to come out of the game. You know that feeling where someone stepped on your toe and it's hurting for like the next 10 minutes. You're going to have to get used to that as a young player, as you make that transition, you understand? But that's all about developing a nasty streak, you know what I'm saying? You have to use these sort of tactics to you have to use these sort of tactics to get an advantage over your opponent. I always used to think, oh no, I don't want to be that sort of player. I don't want to be a dirty player, you know what I'm saying? I just want to play the game clean. But once you actually make that transition, you realize it's a case of like, nah, it has to be done, you know what I'm saying? You have to be, shove it, if you want to hold someone off, you have to be putting your forearm into somebody. You have to be clipping at people's heels intentionally. Yo, you have to step on a man's toe, toes, leave something on him. You know what I'm saying? Let him know you're there. We've all heard that phrase from the coach. Maybe he's talking to a fullback or to a centre back. Just let him know you're there. Even if you have to, file him, take him down. Just let him know you're there. You know what I'm saying? If he's got his back to you, trying to protect the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, clip his ankles. Push him in the back, or even like a forearm to the back. Let him know you're there, you know what I'm saying? So it's just one of them things where as a young player you're gonna have to get used to that, because I see a lot of young players, especially young players in the attacking areas, when they first go into a first team, they don't have that bite to them, you know what I'm saying? They don't have that bite, that tenacity, and this is regardless of stature, you know what I'm saying? This is regardless of stature, because I remember I was at a trial and obviously I'd played already. The coach was like, alright, cool, I've seen you play, you're good, whatever, sit on the bench. I already had my time. But then me and two other guys were just talking, we were just watching the game and we were just analysing players. And I remember one guy said to me like, yo, that number 10 over there, you know what I'm saying, he's a good player, but he's not getting involved, he's not getting on the ball, he's too quiet, he's too passive, you know what I'm saying, he's too passive, he's being a passenger basically. And then the other guy was like, yeah, he's getting pushed off the ball a lot, and the thing is he's small. But the thing is that, yo, the other guy said that, yo, size doesn't really matter, you understand? It doesn't really matter if you're 6'2" or if you're 5'8", 5'9", you still need to have that tenacious, you know what I'm saying, that tenacious bite about you. Because he even used me as an example. He was like, yo, he was basically just pointing at me and saying that, yo, you're not the biggest guy, you're only like 5'8", 5'9", but you still, you know what I'm saying, you still put yourself about, you're still tenacious, you don't get pushed off the ball, you're out here tackling people, pushing other people off the ball. So it's just one of them things where it's like, it's not even a size thing. I know a lot of young players are very conscious about their size, whether it be like their height or even like their weight. Some players feel like they're too skinny, but in my opinion, you see skinny players all the time, them sort of skinny framed players, pushing people off the ball, protecting the ball. Especially you look at like the wingers in world football, you don't get like buffed up wingers. So yeah, as a young player, even if you're a skinny player, it's one of them ones where it's like, yo, even if you don't have that quote-unquote man strength yet, you still have to have that tenacious energy, know how to protect the ball. Because even when you look at like all the wingers in the world, Yamal, slender frame, but he's not getting pushed off the ball. Guys like Rafael, he's a strong brother, you know what I'm saying? He's a strong brother, but he's still sort of slender, you know what I'm saying? So you got guys like Lamine, Leao, and there's so many others who are, slendered frame. Neymar in his prime, you didn't see Neymar getting brushed off the ball, you know what I'm saying? Because he knew how to protect the ball, and yeah, he just didn't let himself, get pushed about by defenders. So it's one of them things where it's like, as a young player, you have to develop that nasty streak. Don't be afraid to, put in a challenge on someone. Expect the physicality, but of course, this will come through experience, like it did for me. At first, you might be overwhelmed with the physicality, but over time you'll get used to it. You start doing it to other people. You start knowing, alright, cool, when to sort of be aggressive on a player, so the ref doesn't see. You can leave one on a player to the point where the ref doesn't see. You're gonna get used to that, but it's just all about experience. But as a young player, just know that you need a nasty streak in your game. You can't be too nice in football, you know what I'm saying? Even if you're the smaller guy, still jump up for the header. Even if you're not gonna win the header, yo, jump up for the header. I've seen jump up. I've seen guys say to me, yo, even if you're not gonna win it, jump up for the header and just give him a forearm in the back or in the ribs or something, or just let him know you're there. It's just little things like that that you're gonna have to, get used to in men's football, because if you don't do it, you're gonna be on the receiving end of challenges, of elbows, of forearms, of stiff arms. You know what I'm saying? Of getting your heels clipped, getting your toes stepped on. It's just one of them things. You need to have a nasty streak in your game as a young player if you want to transition well into the men's game. And the last thing I want to say about being a young player making that transition is that when you're a young player, players who are experienced, players who are in like their mid-20s, let's say like 23, 24, 25, 26 and even above, they can sense who the young players are. You know what I'm saying? They can sense who the young players are. I remember when I came on the pitch for like one of my first few games in the first team, they could tell straight away that, alright, cool, this guy's like 17, 18, 19. And as soon as they see that, you instantly become a target. So what happens if you sort of show fear, show that you're afraid of, the physical battle? Players on the pitch, they're gonna smell blood and they're gonna be like, as soon as you get the ball, for example, they're gonna be like, press him. They're gonna see you as the trigger. So you need to show that, that you're not afraid of that, you know what I'm saying? On the ball and even off the ball, because obviously off the ball, off the ball, they're gonna try, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna try to tackle you. They're gonna try to do all of those things. And then on the ball, you need to show that, you're composed. You can get out of tight situations. You know what you're doing. You're aware. You're scanning and all of that. So as a young player, it's one of them ones where it's like you can't show fear, you can't be afraid, because opponents can smell that. Even me, and this goes from even youth levels. In youth levels, I remember 10, 11, 12, you can tell when somebody's fearful. You can tell when somebody doesn't want the ball anymore. You can tell when someone's scared of the physical battle, you know what I'm saying? And then what does that do for you? Let's say if it's me on the team and I see another guy on the other team, he's scared of the physical battle. He doesn't really have that nasty streak to him, you know what I'm saying? He's quote unquote soft. He's a soft you know what I'm saying? As soon as you see that, you're going to be like, you're going to want to get even more aggressive on him, you know what I'm saying? You're going to be like, this guy doesn't want it. This guy doesn't want the physical battle, especially me as a midfielder. I'm going to smell that. I'm going to smell blood, and I'm going to be like, he doesn't want it. Stick it on him. As soon as he gets the ball, stick it on him. If I have the ball, I'm like, this guy's not getting the ball off me. I can run past him. I can do pretty much what I want. So you don't want to be that guy who who is seen as the weak link, who is seen as a guy where it's like you don't want the physical battle, especially because you're the young player playing amongst grown men. So you need to have that nasty streak too. But like I said, it's gonna come as soon as you get introduced to that physicality. At first you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Maybe you'll try to turn on the back foot and a man is just there at your back, you know what I'm saying? He's kneed you in the back, he stepped on the back of your foot, and you're just thinking, you'll try call a foul, you'll try look at the ref is just gonna lick you and be like, nah bro. Like it even happened at the trial game where I think a centre mid I was playing with, he was trying to dribble with the ball. A guy just sort of brushed him off the ball. He went down, called ref. The ref was just shook his head and he was like, nah, it's not a foul. And then the guy who won the ball off him was like, this is men's football, big man. You're not gonna get the fouls at this level. So it's just one of them ones where it's like, they can tell who the young players are, who the experienced players are. So if you are a young player, you have to develop that nasty streak, because you don't want to be seen as an easy target. You know what I'm saying? So that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed. I'm JT. And I'm out.